Hello, you guys. It's Elizabeth from Elizabeth's Oracle. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and welcome to the Sun into Taurus edition of the newsletter and of this video. Welcome back to those of you who are rejoining. Today, the big focus, of course, is going to be on Uranus moving into Taurus. However, I want to give the Sun through Taurus and all our Tauruses their due. So we're going to talk about the planets and where they're moving around in the first half. Here are the start times for each section. So I hope you will enjoy. And again, thank you for tuning in. Okay, so as I like to do, you guys know I like to walk you through the charts so we can see where things are when the cycle starts, and I can point out some things so those of you who are learning to read the charts or who know them well can get the overview. So first chart, the day that the Sun moves into Taurus, grounded, fixed Taurus. You see Venus very late in Taurus, finishing up her homecoming there. We also, I want to point out that Pluto is getting ready to go retrograde. This happens this time of year for you regulars, you know that. And it's joining Saturn, which just went retrograde April 17th. So now we have a lot of retrograde energy that's ready to connect in the sign of reform, where, you know, the sign of institutions, banking, government, all those things, and pulling up the past. So a lot going on there. Let me real quickly give you a little visual here on everything that's retrograde once this Pluto thing starts on the 22nd. That way you just get a little snapshot and you can see how long these things are going to last, because of course we've been dealing with the Jupiter through Scorpio transit, and it's very connected with everything in Capricorn. Both of them are Pluto influenced right now because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto and Capricorn is of course hosting Pluto for this very long transit, 15-year transit. So lots of reform, lots of, you know, remaking things, and this becomes extra strong with all of these involved, and the Saturn and Pluto combination there right now. Next chart, this is a big one for this cycle. A lot of them are very important, but I want you to pay attention, especially if you are a fixed sign. So Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. This one's about you. It's the full moon, and I want you to notice the nodes. We have that full moon there at 9 degrees of Scorpio. So if you have anything in your chart around that degree, and you're under those signs, this is a really big deal. So we have the Sun and the Moon opposite, which is a full moon, and we have the nodes at 10 degrees. That's within a degree, so a lot of tension. That's a full square for the fixed sign. So you guys, the word would be flexibility. Just be flexible when things are coming up, and see how to work through them. You know, a lot going on here. Right after this, Mercury, for you Mercury watchers, it moves out of the shadow period on May 3rd. So we are all done with Mercury retrograde for now. Coming up, I want to point this out. Let me give you a postcard for Mars, because it's going to enter the shadow period of its next retrograde, and we only get those Mars retrogrades every couple of years, and they're big though, and we got one coming up this summer, but I'm pointing it out now because we are getting ready to enter the zone of the next retrograde. And then lastly, the next chart I'm going to get to is for the day that Uranus goes into Taurus, but I want you to notice in this preceding chart, Mercury finishing up in Aries, where it's going to make a connection with Uranus. Really, that's going to be interesting to see what those two do right before Uranus leaves Aries. But it's getting ready to go into Taurus on the 13th. So let's get to the big chart here, the chart of the season, so to speak, and one of the biggest for the year, really, because this is one of the biggest sign changes of the year. This is Uranus going into Taurus on the 15th of May. And for you moon watchers, you can tell when the sun and the moon are both there in Taurus along with Mercury. That means we just had a new moon, or in this case, we just had one at 24 degrees Taurus and 36 minutes. So, very auspicious. New moons, new beginnings, new cycle coming in. And of course, it's a Uranian one, so it's a global influencer, 7 years. Really big deal here. So we kind of look back and go, wow, that happened at a time that was the signature of new beginnings, new starts, and lunar energy, the softness of a new moon, the gentleness. I want to point out, because Taurus is infinitely patient. It's grounded, it nurtures things, it grows them in the spring and brings them out from the ground, you know. Aries is very forceful and passionate and fiery. Taurus is when we settle down and we have patience. It's fixed, it's earth, it's rooted. So some of those qualities are going to be, or a lot of those qualities will be in effect not only for this new moon, and then we got to kind of work it through Uranus, but I'm going to cover that in the second half. Chart number 4. I'm bringing this one on even though it's just, you know, right after Mars entering Aquarius. So again, I was talking about Mars a little bit earlier. It's going to go back through this point and this territory in the retrograde. But the thing that I want you to notice, again, this fixed sign emphasis, because this now brings a planet to every fixed sign. We are going to continue with Jupiter in Scorpio finishing its transit this year. Now we have Mars in Aquarius that's going to be in influence over the next several months. And then we get, you know, the Uranus and Taurus thing, and we have the nodes doing their things in Aquarius and Leo. So a lot of fixed energy, and this can bring stability on the good side, and it can bring stubbornness on the not so good side. So you guys kind of have to decide how you want to work with that energy. With what do you value is a big question when we talk about Taurus, because it's our resources. What's important to us? What do we hold to? And then what are we willing to be flexible on and let go of? You know, Taurus is physical, it's tactile, it's associated with all 5 of our senses. So we gotta decide how much of the material world we value, and balance that out. So Mars going into Aquarius will actually be another influencer on the Uranian theme as well, because it rules Uranus. So innovation, being able to look out into the future, and you know, so we it's an interesting place for Mars to be influencing, the, you know, to be working with the other planets on how we think about things, because Aquarius is a genius. It can just leapfrog and come up with things way before everybody's ready for it. So it's an early adapter, and with Mars going in there, there's a nice potential for our creativity, our innovation, to bring forth radically new solutions to old issues and problems on the personal and, you know, global stage. Chart number 5 here, I just want to conclude with this one. I always take you guys from the beginning to the end of a cycle, and this is the Sun entering Gemini, which of course finishes the Taurus cycle. But I want you to notice that Venus has moved on into Cancer. She just moved there a couple days earlier, and we're getting ready for, and I'm so glad I had time to cover this. I want to point out, look at Jupiter and look at Neptune in this chart. We are getting ready for their next meeting on the 25th of May. And you guys know I'm a huge fan of these trines. These are water trines, Neptune and Jupiter, both so expansive. And even though Jupiter is retrograde, um, you know, these two working together, I just, there's such a power to them, but it's a gentle power, it's an intuitive power, it's intrinsic. Um, these are wonderful times for downloads, cellular changes, creativity, art, to be informed on a very, I'm having a hard time finding the words to articulate it, but on this intrinsic level. So I love these two getting together, and I want to point that out, that it's building as we close this cycle. And that will also lead me to a point I'm going to make about Uranus in Taurus. So let's get to part two, okay? Okay, so you guys, again, thanks for joining me, and pardon all the outdoor noises and sounds, but I'm kind of enjoying it. I really like I thought as we shift into this big, 7 year transit change, being outside in the spring here in North America is very apropos, because this is the Taurus cycle is generally when we settle into all things spring. So I hope you guys are getting out and literally smelling the flowers, looking at the beautiful healing rainbows of colors that are there in them, and appreciating all that Earth has to offer and share, and that it's always trying to share and give us. And of course, that comes with the artwork and other things making noises. So, just flexibility, people. So, on this Uranus thing, there's a lot of information out there. Everybody's got a different take, and so I totally honor that. I'm going to pick up on something that I'm not seeing enough people cover, in my opinion. Let's look at that chart there. Um, I want you to notice the Earth connections here. So we have Uranus in Taurus, and we have Pluto and Saturn staying in Capricorn. Saturn's there for the next couple of years, and then Pluto. Nice long transit. Look at it. It's only like in, 18 degrees to 21 degrees this year. So we still have a whole lot of Pluto in Capricorn to move through. And as we do that, we're going to go through this transit of Uranus in Taurus. And as you guys know, when they're in the same element, which is Earth in this case, they are working together. They form a trine. They are cooperating. They are pooling their energy, and that element gets emphasized. And what I really like is in between them. Look here at Neptune in Pisces. And for you astrology watchers, you know that that's forming basically a sextile. So that is another super cooperative angle, both to Uranus in Taurus and to the planets in Capricorn. And those are our big three: Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, all in these harmonious angles, or in concert is the way that I'm being guided to say it. And if you think of each part in an orchestra, they each instrument is pretty amazing and has its unique qualities, but boy, you start to put them together in whole sections and something really powerful and magical happens. And also this year we can ride this nice trine from Neptune to Jupiter, and we have an exact one on the 25th that I was just talking about in the early. So we have nice water energies aligning. And if you also noticed in that last chart, let me pull that up again. We have Venus just entering Cancer at the end of the Taurus cycle. So we're going to have all this water energy, everything in water being occupied for about a month there, as Venus makes her way through Cancer. But overall, this big trend, when we talk about Uranus, we talk about innovation, new ideas. Sometimes sudden changes. But really, it's the genius part that I want to focus on. And when we talk about Taurus, we talk about building things, we talk about resources. And of course, here in the United States, our infrastructure has been crumbling. It's been probably a decade of surveys of civil engineers where it gets like a D minus, which is not good or not safe. So I feel like what we're going to see a lot of is a rebuilding, a reusing of our, repurposing our resources. These are going to be very important. And with this double Earth thing, both the reforming quality of Pluto working in concert with Jupiter while it's in Scorpio, but really long term for the whole transit, and add the invisible, indelible force of Neptune changing things. This is a really powerful period, and I think that we can take the better qualities of Uranus and apply it to new materials, lighter materials, less flammable, like innovations in materials. We're also probably, I mean, it's inevitable, humans change constantly, so I don't want to go overboard, but because, Taurus is finances and our money, what we value, we've been on the track of cryptocurrencies and changes to the financial system really since 2008. But I think some of that will get more solidified over the next 7 years. We will continue to move to a more virtual model, whether, everybody's, or a lot of people are getting used to, paying with their phone and these kinds of things. And we're having entire swaths of the world skip building all the infrastructure for the internet and going straight to satellite and straight to being not having to put all that stuff into the ground. So I think all those trends will continue under this. And my main point here, again, there's so much information about it, and you'd really want to get your own chart done to see where it lands and how it's going to be influencing you. But my thing with it is look at the polarity here of the earth water combination, and yes, there'll be earth changes, and this can put more emphasis on things like earthquakes and all of that. But I feel like the bigger thing is to look at the polarity of the water earth thing and really realize in astrology that's considered the feminine. It's the idea of the inward intrinsic way, and I definitely believe there's a very peaceful, harmonious way of rebuilding things, redoing things, looking at what we value. Remember, we used to have all that plastic and petrochemicals called, VHS tapes. They were ginormous. They were huge. Nobody has those anymore, or a few people maybe collecting them. But we rent. There's no reason to own all that and have all the stuff clogging up your house. And I think that those kinds of changes will just, continue in terms of what we value, whether it's, the transportation things that keep evolving, and even our homes. How do we own homes? And obviously with the new tax law, we'll see all the influences of, now that it's not being incentivized to own so much, where are those changes going to come in the housing market? So a lot at stake, a lot coming up, but I think it's so important for you guys to notice how Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus are now going to be in very cooperative angles, very different from the squares that we went through when Uranus was in Aries. This is a trine now to Pluto, and sextiling Neptune. So much more harmonious energies coming in. So let me wrap it up there because there's so much there, and I really do appreciate your time. And let me just tell you about resources if you want to know. So, I'm Elizabeth with Elizabeth's Oracle. I thank you very much for tuning in today. You can come to my site to sign up for a free newsletter. Your information is always respected and kept safe, never shared. You can order a reading through there, and you will get 5 free minutes with your order if you are a new customer. Sign up for the newsletter because I also put specials in there that are only for the newsletter community. So I try to find ways to, help you out and get you in there. And also for free is the show with my friend Christy Ayala, Kristy's connection to the soul. The links are always in the description box below, and there's also a link for Kristy's book. So if you guys want to check that out, she is an angel specialist, and again, these wonderful energies that we're bringing into manifestation here on Earth. Nice cycle coming in, and I hope that you'll join us for the show because we can cover a few things that I don't cover here. And then of course Kristy brings in the angel side of things, which I think we could all benefit from. So hope to see you there. And again, thank you for joining me here, and we will see you when the sun goes into Gemini.